bought food for probably a year and a half. Initially, it wasn't entirely surrounding food waste. I would take like an hour every day to go through every floor in my residence hall and sort all the crap that people had thrown in there. And usually I could turn a mountain of garbage into like a shopping bag. I started to realize that the world had this huge waste problem, and I would sort of look for it in other places, and I wanted to figure out where our primary points of waste production were. Conservative estimates are that we waste about 40% of the world's food production. And everyone's complaining like, oh, we've got this growing population, we can't afford to feed these people, what are we going to do? We need more farmland, we got to clear more forests. We have the capacity to feed, a lot more people, but we just don't use it efficiently. We're selfish with what we have. Consumers go into a supermarket expecting that there's going to be this, perfect, aesthetically beautiful selection of, everything they could possibly imagine in front of them, and they'll pick, the shiniest apple, no blemish, and they say, this is the only apple that is worth my, 78 cents. And they'll put it in their plastic bag, and they'll go home, and they'll let it sit on the counter, and after a couple days it gets a little soft and throw it away. It's just really sad, So most people, when I say, yeah, I like to go dumpster diving to find food, they imagine some guy like going through your kitchen trash and pulling out remnants of chicken bones, like biting little bits out. It's nothing like that. That's disgusting. So they don't understand that it's mass like crates of fresh vegetables and hummus and yogurts and cake mixes or whatever that are being thrown away. One day I may find like 100 pounds of cheese or something, and then the next day it's most of the produce, and then the next day it's like the bread. So they kind of cycle through the store. Dumpster diving's fun, and I don't know. No one really wants to eat out of a dumpster primarily, and I don't really have to. I've saved enough money doing this for long enough that I can buy food if I wanted to. But I feel almost like I have this socio-environmental obligation now to take care of some of this food waste, because when I go to the store and buy food, especially fresh food, what that's doing is again sending a message like, you need to produce more of this because there's demand for it, and we produce plenty. So I feel like I can't really justify going to the store and buying new food and stimulating more demand, putting more stress on our soils, and using more water to produce these things when they're perfectly accessible as is. My brother always told me when I was growing up that if you live like no one else will for a time, eventually you can live like no one else can. Last year I was working a lot and paying all my money off in living expenses. I was paying way too much, living beyond my means, and I thought, I have to change this, because I feel like a slave to the paycheck, and I guess a lot of people feel that way, so it's not really an uncommon thing. But based on my brother's advice, I decided I'm going to do something different about this. If I challenge myself to live in kind of an unusual way for a little while, maybe make things a little bit harder, eventually I can, save up my money and not be in a mountain of college debt. Like, I have this plan to pay it off in 1 year, and I've got a certain number as far as my savings that I want to reach by the time that I graduate to, really put a dent in that. And so far I'm on track. And, the thing is, I don't live a really burdened life. I feel like I have everything I need, and part of that is because of, I made that initial sacrifice of just some ease, some convenience, and now this just feels normal to me, and now I really enjoy, going outside every night and chopping wood before I go to bed. Like, it's kind of therapeutic. But just, taking things and making them a little bit harder, eliminating convenience, allows me to really appreciate the value of my own time and the value of the things that I have. It's really doable, but we've structured our society to, really actively not consider ways that we can just simply change our lifestyles to be more, cost-effective and energy efficient and sustainable.